Thanks. Hi, Sneha. I believe I can invite you to join us. We're just waiting for a couple of people to show up and checking out the tech here before I start my presentation. Alternatively, of course, you can just chat with me in the chat if you'd rather not join the discussion. And I think I just sent you. I think I just sent you an invitation. I'm learning all this this tech now as we speak. This could be the quietest virtual presentation in history. Give me an opportunity to do a little monologue as well. I don't see anything in the chat. I will continue to stand by. Welcome to the session. I will be starting in just another minute or so. And Stanton, what's the verdict with the other sessions?
So Celia's talk, the last TEDx talk of the first session just ended. So it ended late.
I see.
And now, as you can see, there are some people pouring in.
Wonderful. So due to the that last talk ending a little late, I'll start shortly.
That's okay.
And I will, in the interest of people getting a break on time, I'll still aim to end, before 1/2 the hour, so that people, of course, can still take a break as needed before the next sessions. Welcome to those of you who are joining today. We'll get started in just another, I'd say 94 seconds or so. I think I'll actually get started. Thanks for being here. And Stanton, one piece of moderator tech to consider. I actually don't know, as a moderator, how I can bring someone up onto the stage to speak. I sent a video request to one person, but I'm not sure. Do you know how I can invite someone to join, or do you mind just managing that?
I believe you can't force somebody to join. They have to manually want to join.
Sure. Yeah, I know, and I would never want to. I would never want to force someone to join. So, but is the operation just invite to video call? Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
There, in theory, for anyone listening, there should be a blue button at the top right-hand corner of your screen to request access to join. And once you click that, a pop-up should appear, and you should have the opportunity to scroll down until you see a button called Apply. And then that'll put your name on the list of individuals that we can pull to the stage.
All right. And Stanton, I'll invite you to kick it off with your housekeeping notes, and then we can get started for those people who are here.
Yeah, we'll try to get people up. All right. Thank you to everyone for joining our activation session today. We're really excited to have you all. So this activation session, Improved Communication Skills with Play, will be conducted by Tony Esteves. My name is Stanton, and I will be your moderator for today. I hope you are enjoying your day and your experience so far here at TEDx YYC. A few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. In this session, Tony will be encouraging audience participation. So if you would like to appear on camera, there should be a blue button at the top right-hand corner of your screen to request access. Once you click that button, a pop-up should appear, and you should have the opportunity to scroll down and see you see the button called Apply. Also, if you're not comfortable with appearing on camera, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Now, before I pass it off to Tony, I'd actually like to introduce the host of today's session, Tony Esteves, international facilitator, virtual event producer, and solution-focused coach. Tony Esteves is passionate about creating human connection. He is the author of Talk to More People, Change Your Life by Meeting People, and holds a BA in Communication Studies. When not facilitating live or managing virtual events, Tony can be found hiking in the Rocky Mountains west of Calgary or performing in the circus. But without further ado, I will look to pass it off to Tony to get this event started.
All right. Thank you so much, Stanton, for helping out with the tech on the back end and for moderating the discussion today and for welcoming me here. And thanks to you, viewers live and also on the recording, for taking some time out of your busy life to see what this Talk to More People session is all about. And for today, I have in mind, in this sort of 20 minutes or so, we might go 25 minutes. This is what I have in mind. And first of all, I'll share a little bit about why I'm so passionate about meeting new people and encouraging other people to connect with strangers. I'll also share a little story about using playfulness and how that created a bit of a life-changing experience for me. And then we will move more into a discussion where anyone here is welcome to ask a question, ask me absolutely anything, and also we can have a little bit of fun with it, depending on who volunteers to get on the stage. So we'll play that one by ear. But in starting, let me share a little bit about this why of mine. So why talk to more people? Well, I've noticed and observed that there is an epidemic of loneliness in the world today. And research has proven that loneliness can be as damaging to your physical health as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. It is a huge problem in society, and it was a huge problem even before this pandemic forced millions of people into isolation. And I have a bit of a vision of how this world could be, and what I see in the future is a world where people aren't buried in their smartphones when they're out on the street or out shopping. And people aren't just looking down at the technology and the social media, but actually they're looking up and being open to engaging with the people around them. And that in this future, that the default is connection rather than digital disconnection. And I can actually see this image, like, people at, you see the little snippets of this in society today, perhaps at the water cooler when people are working at an actual office. It's very easy to just chit chat with people who you have something in common with. And out in the street, some people are very friendly and happy to speak with others, and some are not so friendly. But in this future that I can imagine, I can see people really just connecting as the norm, in that we are, as I said, looking up and looking for opportunities to connect with others. And the reason I believe so passionately that this is important, that we work towards this or play towards this, is because connecting with just one stranger has the potential to positively transform your life. And that's been my experience as I went on a journey of intentionally meeting one new stranger every day for a year. And it was just phenomenal for my mental health, for my financial wellness, and for my life in general. So that's just a little bit about the why behind this Talk to More People concept and why I'm such an advocate for connecting with people. Right now, I'd like to step into a short story about how playfulness helped create some connections for me, and how it might create some connections for you in the future. So while I was on this talk to more people journey, I would meet people in all kinds of different places, from coffee shops to grocery stores to different events I was involved in, you name it. But even before I started this journey back in 2016, I was meeting strangers. And this one day I went into a coffee shop here in Calgary. It's called Higher Ground in Kensington. And as I went in, I noticed a young woman who was wearing some sports tights that were like really, really colorful. And I love color. I'm a big fan of things colorful and movement. And so I just immediately, like without even thinking, I just complimented her. I said, "Oh, those are amazing tights." And she smiled and said thank you. And then I continued on to the coffee bar to order my coffee. And there I met two pretty muscular dudes, a couple of guys who were just joking around with one another. They almost seemed to be like brothers, the way they were kind of jabbing at one another, and just their tone seemed to be very inviting to me. And as a playful person, I decided to get involved. I think we were telling some puns around the use of scissors or something like that. And this quickly welcomed me into the conversation with these two guys, and they were waiting for their coffees to be made as I was finishing placing my order. Well, I got speaking to them in that moment of playfulness, and then they offered me an invitation. They said, "So Tony, what are you doing tomorrow at 6:13 in the morning?" And I said, "I'm sleeping. Well, what else would I be doing?" And they said, "Would you like to come to a workout outside, like a free workout outside at 6:13 in the morning?" And I said, "No, I would be sleeping at that time." But then they went on to explain that this invitation was part of a big worldwide fitness movement. It's something called the November Project. And actually, one of the people who I was speaking to is a gentleman named Brogan Graham, who's the co-founder of the entire November Project. And he happened to be in Calgary to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of this organization in Calgary at that time. And the person who I had complimented, her name is Tamara, she happened to be the director of the Calgary chapter. And so, getting interested and being curious, I was like, I said, "Sure, yeah, I'll check it out. I'll be there." And I did show up the next day. I brought a friend of mine, Trent. He's a videographer, and we shot a video of my experience doing my first outdoor workout with a whole bunch of strangers, where there was this real sense of play that I absolutely loved, and there was hugs and high fives and a proper workout as well. And that experience changed my life. As a result of being playful and just joking around with those two guys, I attended these November Project workouts for about 2 years after that first workout. And that helped me with my fitness, which in turn helped me with my mental health. I met some new friends, and I was introduced to an entire community of people. And so that's an example of how I've used playfulness in my life to create a connection or to create a new experience. And I just wanted to open the session with that little story to get you thinking about how you might be able to use play to create more connections in your life. And before I open it up for the discussion, I know there's a really, really good chance that you may have some hesitations around approaching strangers or some obstacles around meeting new people. And I'd just like to share a little bit of what the research says around what actually happens when you approach a stranger. So a well-known researcher out of the University of Essex, a woman named Gillian Sandstrom, who has done quite a great deal of work on talking to strangers. She's done a number of studies, and a couple of them I've even been fortunate enough to participate in. And one of them that I really appreciate talks about this thing called the liking gap. And what that is this research that's been done where people rate how much they think the person that they're going to meet, like if they're going to intentionally meet a stranger as part of an experiment, they rate what they expect that person is going to think of them, and then the person who was met then actually does rate what they thought of the person who approached them. And consistently, they have found that this liking gap is bigger than what we would expect. And what that means is that if I'm the person approaching a stranger, I have a natural tendency to underestimate how highly that person I'm speaking to will think of me. And I think this is a really important piece of research because it explains part of the reason why most people would generally say that they're nervous to meet a stranger, or that they're not willing to even give it a try. But that research, along with some other studies that she's put out, prove that most of us have it all wrong. And we are missing amazing opportunities to connect with other people. And the research proves that we're probably going to be thought highly of by approaching them, as opposed to the negative or the self-doubt that we might be feeling. So that's just one little piece of research I thought I'd share as we move into a little bit more of a discussion. And Stanton, at this time, actually, I'd like to ask the group, the participants who are here, if anybody's willing to join me for a little discussion on stage, which means you need to have your camera on. And to start off with, you can just ask me any questions you like. And then I'll be happy to answer them. Any questions around connecting with strangers or talking to people. And then if it so evolves, we can move into a little exercise that I have in mind. And we'll see how the participation is from the audience. I see Bill giving us a big sure in the chat. So Bill, please do join us. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for.
Yeah, this is my first time attending a TEDx event. I'm a 17 years old, grade 11 student here in Calgary.
Well, welcome to the virtual event. I'm here with you in Calgary as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you were here right from the very beginning, but I just shared a little bit about the importance of talking to strangers and why I'm passionate about it. I'm wondering if you have any questions when it comes to meeting new people or anything that I can answer.
I actually did a quick Google search while you were talking about the November project, and your participation was I think it was 7 months, like every single day meeting a new person. I've just found an article on CBC and just quickly read through it. That was very inspiring and definitely a lot of courage for you to be able to actually approach someone in order to do that. I think that within my own school community, it's sometimes, kind of difficult to especially when people are in groups, right? And if you're approaching someone, you're usually just not only approaching one person, but a larger group of that might be more of an enclosed. So do you have maybe some tips on approaching like larger groups and start connecting that way?
Well, thanks for doing the Google search, Bill. Yeah, that article from CBC came out when I was 7 months into the project. However, I ended up doing it for a whole 12 months. I met a new person every day for a whole year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got some ideas about how you can connect with people if it's like a larger group of people that you are approaching. And actually, I'm doing another session a little later today where we will be practicing specifically that.
Okay.
Then it's a technique I call talk to more people listening. And what that involves is really just, it's a bit of a mindfulness piece, really. It's just about turning off the smartphone or any wearable technology you have or tucking it away and just being more present to your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, let's say there's a group of people at school who you kind of like to join the conversation, but you don't know how to. One of the things you can do is kind of cruise past the conversation and intentionally, although I say respectfully, overhear what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And when you overhear what people are talking about, you'll start to hear things that you can relate to, which of course could be anything. It could be sports, could be something that's going on at school. It could be, arts, whatever the subject is. But once you hear something that you can relate to, you have this opportunity. It's like a little gift. It's like, oh, I know all about this subject. And then you can kind of chime in. And one of the ways that I recommend you would do that if it's a group of people is that you say, oh, excuse me, I just overheard you talking about such and such. And then you offer your contribution. And before you know it, you've joined the conversation. So That's a tip that I'd offer, but I'll also say that joining a larger group of people is not the easiest way to start. That's kind of like more of an advanced tip. But that listening piece is really great because you can do the listening without actually speaking to anyone and practice that skill to start.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for your question. And Stanton, I don't know if you've got anybody else who has a question. For those of you who have recently joined, Stanton is our moderator, and I'm Tony, the facilitator for this session. And I shared a little bit about why I'm passionate around intentionally meeting people and how it can change your life. And I welcome anybody who wants to ask a question about connecting with people to raise their hand or turn on their video. Stanton is going to manage that, and I'd be very happy to answer your questions. And I see we have, am I pronouncing it correctly if I say Kieran?
Oh,
Karen, sorry, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so with COVID and everything, I've been isolated. I have young children. Back out there, the kids have been at school this year. But I found with pickups and drop-offs, I wasn't really approaching the other parents. Everyone was wearing masks. We weren't allowed on the property. But now I sort of feel like next year I want to get back into communicating with the other parents and stuff like that. But it feels like there's been such a gap between like the last time we met or the last time we talked, and it sort of feels like I pushed people away because I wasn't comfortable. But now how do I get back into the situation? Because it's like, I don't know if I've hurt people's feelings and whatnot along the way. So it's like, how do you reapproach people, I guess, and make them feel comfortable with, sorry.
No problem. Well, thanks, Karen, very much for your question. That's an excellent question, especially given where our world is today. And the first thing I would say is what you are thinking and feeling, consider how there's a really good chance all those other people are also thinking and feeling the same thing. And often when we're having doubts about, like, should I approach this person? For example, you mentioned this long gap when we've had to be distanced, and that, now how do we re-engage? There's a really good chance that if you just take the first small step to reconnecting, you will be met with a great deal of thanks and reward for your efforts. And that was certainly my case, the case that I observed when, you'd see sometimes people would avoid you on the sidewalk, like completely, like walk to the other side of the street, because we were all learning about how dangerous this thing was.
Yeah.
But then I also noticed that there were people who would come towards me if I was walking down the street with a smile and sort of open body language, and actually start a conversation with me. So I guess what I would suggest is to allow yourself to take some small steps to be the person who begins to initiate those little discussions, and understand that we're all in the same boat, and that you might actually just be putting someone else's anxieties at ease by having the courage to start. And I'll give you one little tip about how you could start small, and that is, this session is all about curiosity and play. And one of the ways that I recommend to people in the Talk to More People book that you connect with others is just to use your curiosity. It's like, well, how do I even think of anything to talk to this person about? So if you notice, for example, someone's wearing a really neat shirt, or they came in on a tricycle, and like, I've never seen an adult riding a tricycle. I don't know if that would be the case, but if you see some sort of anomaly, or something, or even there's a technique in a resource sheet that I'll be posting here called triangulation, that is a term sociologists use for, like, if we're in a public space and we are both strangers, but we walk up and we both observe this fountain. That fountain, along with the other person, creates a triangle. And you can use that other thing, and many people have done this with, like, dogs or people's children. You can use the other thing as your excuse to say, oh, what a cool piece of artwork, or what a neat fountain, or whatever. So you can try that triangulation technique to create excuses, I guess you could say, to chat with people. And as I said, check out the resource sheet. I've got a write-up about that like a little segment from my book on this little 3-page PDF that we will drop in the chat.
Perfect.
Thanks so much for your question.
Thank you.
All right. And so, yes, Stanton, I welcome anybody else who might have a question around curiosity, playfulness, the meaning of life, you know, why it's important to connect with strangers today. And if you're interested in having a chat and joining us here, I guess on the stage, the virtual stage, then just either message Stanton or notify him in some way. Actually, Stanton, can you remind me, how do I notify us if I want to join the stage?
So if you want to join the stage, there should be, and I believe there's a blue button in the top right-hand corner that allows you to request access as a participant.
Wonderful. Well, I'll take one more question or comment, and then we'll wrap it up to allow people to take a break before the sessions recontinue.
There is a Q&A question for you, Tony. An
All right.
anonymous Q&A question.
I'm popping over to Q&A. And the question is socialization an inherited skill set, or can it be mimicked to seem natural even though it goes against one's personality? Thank you, Anonymous, for that awesome question. I do believe it can be an inherited skill, but from my experience, it was not an inherited skill. So I grew up actually a very shy boy and a shy child. And actually, Stanton, while I'm sharing this story, do you mind just sharing in the chat the link to the resource sheet?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That would be delightful. So I grew up a shy boy and had like one friend, a guy named Jude, who I played tetherball with, and I didn't want to talk to or speak to anybody else until about the age of, I suppose, about 16. At which point I was largely inspired by my elder sisters who were involved in student leadership in high school. And so I decided miraculously, against my personality type, to run in a student council election. And that meant that I had to do a talk in front of more than 100, I think it was grade 10 students at Medway High School in London, Ontario, my hometown. And I was terrified, but I had some fun with it and I got elected. And so that change in my life as a teenager really helped me kind of find my voice. But I wouldn't say that I became like an outward, extroverted, chatty caddy for a while after that. I had to build that skill. And so while I think it can be inherited, my experience is that it is definitely a skill that you can build and you can develop. And it starts with practice. And furthermore, just like learning any skill, I would recommend starting by practicing with like some small, easy steps. And that will lead you to greater encouragement and self-confidence and success a little bit sooner. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a follow-up question. And that is, I asked because my son is a naturally sociable person. However, my daughter finds it very difficult to socialize. And thank you. Yeah, hey, my pleasure. I think they may come around at some point. And of course, some people maintain that preference for being a little bit more introverted. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a preference. And Stanton, I don't know if there's anybody else. We started a little bit late, so I'm fine to go a little bit late. If anyone else has a question, either in the chat or wants to join us on screen, I'm happy to address one final question before we wrap, so that everyone has a chance to take a little break before the sessions continue. I'm playing the Jeopardy music in my head. Okay, well, perhaps in closing, I'll just share one more short story. And yeah, I'll direct people who are here to download the little PDF that I have in the chat. There's also a link to a course that I am teaching this September on how to meet people. And for those who pre-register just with an email address, no payment, but just pre-register saying that you're interested, I'm offering a 50% discount to that course. And looking forward to having some people in there who want to have some fun learning how to meet new people. And in this closing story is day 305 of my Talk to More People project. So on that day, I was at an event in Bragg Creek here south of Calgary, and it was like a house concert. It was sort of a mindfulness meditation potluck sort of event. And at that event, I sat down next to someone during the meditation, and I got like a physical sensation, like, you know, that feeling you can get in your chest sometimes when you encounter someone or some situation that has like a physiological impact on you. And that's what my experience was sitting next to this person. And so I noticed that I had to talk to this person, but there wasn't the opportunity to talk to them during a meditation. So I had to wait until there was the food partway through, like after some music had happened. And even though I've become comfortable talking to people, I remember being quite nervous because I hadn't been dating for a while and I just didn't know like what's the right way to approach this young woman. Like, I don't know. And what I did was I opened with a question. And I simply asked her, you know, how are you enjoying the food? And that's all it took for my anxiety to come down and for her to answer and for us to just get into a bit of a conversation. And the really cool thing about that day 305 of the Talk to More People project is that's the day I met Renee, this person I'm describing, who is my partner. And she and I have now been together for more than 4 years, and we've experienced a great deal of love and joy and happiness through connection. And I don't believe I would have met Renee unless I was on this journey of intentionally meeting strangers. So I want to close with that story, that little love story, if you will, as an example of just the amazing potential of opening up to connecting with strangers, because meeting new people really can change your life. And if you want to read a little bit more about it, this is the book that came out this year that I'm very proud to share with the world. And it's available at talktomorepeople.com and also worldwide on Amazon. So thank you so much for joining us here. As I mentioned earlier, I am hosting a second session that would be a little bit more interactive, as I'm going to be practicing that Talk to More People listening technique. And I invite you to join us there a little later today. Thanks for being at TEDx YYC. We'll see you soon.